In the wake of Prince Andrew losing his titles and some of the controversy surrounding him, I really wanted to look at that abysmal, terrible Newsnight interview and analyse some of the commentary around it and some of the comments that Prince Andrew made. I recently read a book called Entitled, which is doing quite well in the bestsellers list about Prince Andrew, and I was really appalled by some of the speculation in there and some of the anecdotes in there about him and his wife Fergie, particularly a really lavish lifestyle of excessive spending and debt, all done funded by the British people. There's a wider discussion here about privilege and entitlement and abuses of power. So let's have a look at the Newsnight interview and really analyse some of the comments made by Prince Andrew, because it is an abysmal interview.
Because there is no good time to talk about Mr. Epstein and all things associated. We've been talking to Newsnight for about 6 months about doing something around the work that I was doing. And unfortunately, we've just not been able to fit it into either your schedule or my schedule until now. And actually, it's a very good opportunity, and I'm delighted to be able to see you today.
So he starts now by mentioning the work that he's been doing and his busy schedule. Now, I'm English. I can't comment on every single person in Britain, but my perception of Andrew is that he doesn't do much. I don't know the work he's doing. He's only really hit my radar since the scandal, and I just feel there's an air of sort of smug self-satisfaction there that he mentions the work he's been doing. I think he's been doing something called Pitch at Palace, and he thinks that the BBC have been hounding him for this interview to talk about Pitch at Palace. Nobody really cares about Pitch at Palace. We care about the Epstein scandal. Nobody is really interested in the work you've been doing, so there's an air of sort of self-delusion as to why he's being interviewed.
As you say, all of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people.
Now, we have a lot of hindsight here because we know that Ghislaine was later convicted for various assaults and aiding Jeffrey Epstein in some of the sexual abuses. But here he seems to be deflecting upon Ghislaine. I mean, Ghislaine is his card, his get out of jail free card. It's, I'm not friends with Jeffrey, I'm friends with Ghislaine. Ghislaine is the daughter of a very successful media baron called Robert Maxwell, so there is an air of prestige and somewhat establishment with Ghislaine. So for him to say, I don't know Jeffrey, I know Ghislaine, at this point, he's trying to get out of it. And she has a certain amount of credence to her name. We now know that this is a massive blunder on his part.
And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year. And quite often, if I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, well, why don't you come and use my houses? So I said, that's very kind, thank you very much indeed.
I think the intention of this interview was to go out to the common man, and you've got the Queen's son with nowhere to stay in America, having to use the houses of an extremely rich financier. It just misfires on so many levels.
But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend. But he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together.
This comment about bringing people together will come back to bite him a little bit later in the interview. It's an interesting comment, and to be honest, quite a strange comment about a sex offender.
And that's the bit that I remember, is going to the dinner parties where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
Was that his appeal then? Was
Yeah.
that what you... Because you were perceived by the public as being the party prince. Was that something you
Well,
shared?
I think that's also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title, because I never have really partied. I was single for quite a long time in the early 80s. But then after I got married, I was very happy, and I've never really felt the need to go and party. And certainly going to Jeffrey's was not about partying.
So just taking the partying stuff aside, I just really want to reflect on that comment that he said about going to Jeffrey's is certainly not about partying. There is just so much pretension to him. It's like what I was doing at Jeffrey's was just so important, and you would not understand. It was not about partying because we were deep immersed in some really important work. I mean, it's just, get over yourself.
Absolutely not.
You said you weren't very good friends, but would you describe him as a good friend? Did you trust him?
Yes, I think I probably did. But again, I mean, I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing, if you understand what I mean. I'm an engaging person. I want to be able to engage. I want to find out. I want to learn. And so you have to remember that I was transitioning out of the Navy at the time. And in the transition, I wanted to find out more about what was going on, because in the Navy, it's a pretty isolated business because you're out at sea the whole time. And I was going to become the Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. So I wanted to know more about what was going on in the international business world.
And again, there's that self-importance and an appeal to the public, really. It's, I was serving in the Navy. I was serving this country. Let me remind you that I was out on sea to protect this country. And then I become the trade envoy for the UK. So I was trying to generate money for this country. That's how important I am. I'm important to this country.
That was another reason for going there. And the opportunities that I had to go to Wall Street and other places to learn whilst I was there were absolutely vital.
Vital to who? Who cares?
He was your guest as well. In 2000, Epstein was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation. But remember that it was his girlfriend that was the key element in this. He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent in that aspect.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
I mean, I didn't even know what a shooting weekend was until I saw this interview. What is a shooting weekend? And what's the difference between a party and a shooting weekend? You're socialising. There might be drinks, there might be food. He could say paintballing, he could say go-karting, he could say a visit to the zoo. You're still socialising with a sexual predator.
A shooting weekend.
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
The way she says shooting weekend back at him kind of reflects how we all feel, and straightforward shooting weekend. What is that?
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle, at Sandringham, the shooting weekend, we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else that that was what he was doing. And certainly when I saw him either in the United States, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication, absolutely no indication. And if there was, you have to remember that at the time, I was patron of the NSPCC's Full Stop campaign, so I was close up with what was going on in those time about getting rid of abuse to children. So I knew what the things were to look for, but I never saw them.
So
he's doing that typical defence again, where he is trying to show his valour, and consequently, because of his valour, he couldn't possibly be involved in this, and he would know the signs. Now, we've seen teachers convicted of this kind of thing. We've seen priests convicted of this kind of thing. We've seen doctors, nurses, all sorts convicted of this kind of thing. Working in that industry and trying to stop those abuses is a noble quest, and I tip my hat to anybody that does it, but it doesn't absolve you of any suspicion whatsoever, and it also doesn't mean that you are highly trained to be the Sherlock Holmes of spotting this kind of thing. He's once again trying to appeal by using his valour to the public.
you would have made that connection because you stayed with him, you were a visitor, a guest on many occasions at his homes, and nothing struck you as suspicious.
Nothing.
During that whole time?
Nothing.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
You visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
So in 2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday. Why would you do that?
Because I was asking Ghislaine. But even so, at the time, I don't think certainly I wasn't aware when the invitation was issued what was going on in the United States. And I wasn't aware until the media picked up on it, because he never said anything about it.
He never discussed with you the fact that an arrest warrant had been issued?
No.
So he came to that party knowing police were investigating him?
Well, I'm not quite sure whether was it police that were. I don't know. You see, this is the problem.
It was the Palm Beach police at the time.
But I mean, I'm afraid, you see, this is the problem. Is that an awful lot of this was going on in the United States, and I wasn't a party to it, and I knew nothing about it.
In 2008, he was convicted of soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was your friend. How did you feel about it?
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation, and that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So it was one of those things that if somebody's going through that sort of thing, well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be.
So no contact?
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there?
No.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always, ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do? Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. And I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him and talk to him. And I went to see him, and I was doing a number of other things in New York at the time, and we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park, and that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact.
There's a fair bit to unpack here, but I'd say about the photo in Central Park, that's very incriminating. If that photo didn't exist, perhaps they could pull up flight records or logs of where he was, but that photo is very incriminating. And he's using it as a defence because it gives him the opportunity to say, look, I took Epstein to one side. That incriminating photo was the conversation we had. He mentions himself it's a coincidence. It is a coincidence. At the moment that he's breaking it off, the most incriminating piece of evidence against him was the moment that I showed my dignity and integrity by ending the friendship with him. It seems to be a bit of a manipulation tactic from Andrew because he knows how incriminating that photo is. So if he could frame it as the moment where he was showing an incredible amount of dignity, then he can reverse the situation. The photo shows him with a sex offender after the fact. Everything before that is deniable, but that photo and his visit to New York is a smoking gun.
And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
What did he say when you told him that you were breaking up the friendship?
He was what I would describe as understanding. He didn't go into any great depth in the conversation about what I was doing or what he was doing, except to say that he'd accepted whatever it was, a plea bargain. He'd served his time, and he was carrying on with his life. You see what I mean? And I said yes, but I'm afraid to say that's as may be. But with all the attendant scrutiny on me, then I don't think it is a wise thing to do.
Who advised you then that it was a good idea to go and break up the friendship? Did that come from the palace? Was Her Majesty the Queen involved?
No. That came from, so there were a number of people so some people from my staff, some people from friends and family I was talking to, and I took the decision that I had to show leadership, and I had to go and see him, and I had to tell him, that's it.
That was December of 2010.
Yep.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as the guest of honour.
Oh, in 2010? There certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December, because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think.
I mean, right away he says there wasn't a party to celebrate his release because it was a small dinner party. So he denies it being a party and then uses the word party at the same sentence. Now, you're getting into semantics. A dinner party with 8 or 9 people, or a dinner party with 50 people, a dinner party with 3 people. A party is a party. I mean, he's disputing the most minor details of semantics right now.
The dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honour.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay. I was there at a dinner. Yeah.
I'm just trying to work this out because you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long.
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
A convenient place to stay. The Queen's son needed a convenient place to stay.
I've gone through this in my mind so many times. At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one could have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do. But at the time, I felt it was the honourable and right thing to do. And I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable, but that's just the way it is.
It's that sense of valour again, and that sort of self-entitled pretension. I can always remember the advice in job interviews where people would say to you, turn your weaknesses into flaws. So when people said to you, what are some of your weaknesses? You would say, I push myself too hard and I expect the same of others around me. I'm driven to succeed, and I can sometimes be despondent when others aren't meeting my high standards. Things like this were said in interviews, and it was an attempt to turn what could be perceived as a weakness into a strength. And he's doing the exact same thing here. Now, I don't think there's any reasonable excuse he could give in that situation. He has knowingly spent time with a sex offender while an ambassador of the royal family. There is nothing he could say in that situation. And yet somehow, he's given the worst possible excuse. The excuse of being too honourable just reeks of someone that's not really had to explain themselves much in their life. I don't know if there's any way you could talk yourself out of this situation if you were Andrew. I think the best course of action would have been to hold your hands up and say, look, I didn't realise the gravity of the accusations against him, and I went to stay with him, and I regret it deeply. I did not realise how serious the allegations were because I had not read into them enough. But even then, it makes you look ignorant. I suppose you could say it was just a business discussion and nothing personal, and you should know better.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls. And you were there staying in his house, catching up with friends.
If they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. I never saw them. I mean, you have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean, in the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time.
See, I think the railway comment is pre-prepared. It just sounds quite colourful. It's a bit of a strange way to describe someone's house, and I get the imagery, but it sounds like he's prepared that. He's come to this interview woefully unprepared, but this is one thing that I think he's prepared, this description.
What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that because I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent. Now, he described seeing you there getting a foot massage from a young Russian woman. Did that happen?
No.
You're absolutely sure, or you can't remember?
Absolutely sure.
So John Brockman's statement is false?
Well, I don't know Mr. Brockman, so I don't know what he's talking about.
This is quite interesting because when she says John Brockman's name, he says, really? And then when she asks him about John Brockman, he says, I don't know who John Brockman is. So why did he have that alarmed expression when the name first came up, and why did he say really? You wouldn't say that if you didn't know that person.
But that definitely wasn't you getting a foot massage from a Russian girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house.
No.
It might seem a funny way to break off a friendship, a 4-day house party of sorts with a dinner. It's an odd way to break up a friendship. It's a difficult way of putting
it. That's a very stark way of putting it. Yes, you're absolutely right. But actually, the truth of it is that I actually only saw him for about the dinner party, the walk in the park, and probably passing in the passage.
So let's go to that Central Park walk, which was snapped. Friends of yours suggest that Epstein wanted that photo taken. Perhaps he'd even set it up. Do you worry that you were being played?
Again, new information is coming out since his suicide has made us reappraise that walk in the park. We can't find any evidence, or my staff and my people and I can't find any evidence to suggest that that was what he was doing. I mean, you can look at it in so many different ways. The fact of the matter is that somebody very cleverly took that photograph. It wasn't, as far as I remember, nor do my security people remember anybody being present or close, because there were enough security around. I mean, there are even photographs of the security people are around in the photograph. So I mean, he could have done, but
I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel that you were part of Epstein's public rehabilitation?
I can sense Emily Maitlis, who's doing an amazing job here, but I can sense that she's getting a little bit exasperated with Andrew at this point, because all he's coming back with is fluff, and she is running circles around him, but she's getting a bit pissed off with him.
Oh, no, funny enough, I don't. No. I mean, if he was doing, if that photograph was taken for that, with that purpose in mind, then it doesn't equate to what.
That is a look of utter contempt, and she's a professional and she's brilliant at her job, but that is a look of utter contempt.
Actually happened.
So why wouldn't you announce this breakup when you got back? Why wouldn't you publicly explain what you'd done? Did you worry that he had something that could compromise you?
No.
Do you regret that trip?
Yes.
Do you regret the whole friendship with Epstein?
Now, still not. And the reason being is that the people that I met and the opportunities that I was given to learn.
I mean, if you play cricket or baseball or some sport that involves throwing a ball at the batter, she has bowled him an absolute softball there, an underarm 1 mile an hour ball for him to just strike out of the park. Do you regret the friendship? No. And he is still, with all of his delusions and pretensions and self-importance, does not regret the friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. It's mind-boggling. I mean, look at some of the people that have been convicted now: Harvey Weinstein, Jimmy Savile, some of the worst sexual predators of all time. Nobody would turn around and say, well, they brought value into my life. You just don't speak that way about people convicted of these kind of crimes. And he is still singing the guy's praises.
Either by him or because of him were actually very useful.
Who was useful and what was useful and what was it useful for? You know, there's dead victims now. There's Virginia Giuffre who killed herself. What was useful? Useful to your pocket?
He himself, not, as it were, as close as you might think. We weren't that close. So therefore, I mean, yes, I would go and stay in his house, but that was because of his girlfriend, not because of him.
A drinking game is to take a shot of tequila every time he mentions his girlfriend, referring to Jeffrey, or just mentions Ghislaine.
Was that visit, December of 2010, the only time you saw him after he was convicted?
Yes.
Did you see him or speak to him again?
No, that was that. Funny enough, 2010 was it. That was it, because I went. Well, first of all, I wanted.
Honestly, this man's insufferable, and they're retreading the Central Park walk again, which we've covered. So let's get to the juicy stuff.
One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you, at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
This denial was a mistake from his point of view, because there is a photo of them two together, and he did try and play the card that the photo was somehow manipulated. But again, same with the Central Park walk, that is a smoking gun. I think his denial is a blunder from his perspective. He should acknowledge her existence and that he has met her.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen.
Do you remember her?
No. I have no recollection of ever meeting her. I'm almost, in fact, I'm convinced that I was never in Tramps with her. There are a number of things that are wrong with that story. One of which is that I don't know where the bar is in Tramps. I don't drink. I don't think I've ever bought a drink in Tramps whenever I was there.
Let's say for a minute that he's telling the truth about not drinking and not buying a drink in Tramps. How does that discredit Virginia Giuffre? I mean, her story didn't involve a blueprint of the bar at Tramps. Her story maybe alluded to or mentioned Andrew drinking, but him denying that he doesn't know where the bar is and that he doesn't know the layout of Tramps very well and that he doesn't drink does not discredit Virginia Giuffre's story. It's just fluff to his own story. There's at no point is he almost getting Virginia in a gotcha situation, but he seems to think he has, and you can see that smug look on his face. I don't drink and I don't know where the bar is, but that does not add any credence to his defence whatsoever.
Do you remember dancing at Tramp?
No. That couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
On that particular day that we now understand is the date, which is the 10th of March, I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a pub.
I mean, it's a bit nitpicky from me here, but he says that he was at home with the children, but he dropped one of the children off at Pizza Express in Woking, so he wasn't at home with the children, he was at home with the child.
Party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and then because the Duchess was away.
They don't actually refer to each other as the Duke and Duchess or the Prince and Princess, do they?
We have a simple rule in the family that when one's away, the other one's there. I was on terminal leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Oh, dropped in that he was in the Navy once again. And of course, he's a stellar parent that never leaves the children alone.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing for me to do. I've only been to Woking a couple of times, and I remember it weirdly distinctly. As soon as somebody reminded me of it, I went, oh yes, I remember that.
It's funny that visiting Woking, a small town in his own country, is a very unusual thing to do, but visiting townhouses and mansions in New York is perfectly ordinary, and I do understand that he is a prince. It's just the sense of elitism that just emanates from his being.
But I have no recollection of ever meeting or being in the company or the presence.
Absolutely desperate to get that denial in there. Really hammer the point home.
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March.
Yeah.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was, yes, I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at.
The Falklands was a really nasty war. It didn't last very long, but it was a very nasty war. But from my reading, Andrew's activities in the Falklands were operational, and I don't believe he was shot at. And this seems to be a desperate attempt to show himself as this hero for England. And like, why is he shoehorning in the Falklands War? What does it have to do with anything? He could not wait to shoehorn the fact that he was in the Falklands. He could not wait to get that in there.
And I simply, it was almost impossible for me to sweat. And it's only because I have done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to do that again. So I'm afraid to say that there's a medical condition that says that I didn't do it, so therefore.
This is my favourite part of the interview because he becomes the expert witness, the judge and the jury all for himself. He explains the medical condition and that he can't sweat. And then he smugly turns around and says, therefore I didn't do it. And he becomes his own expert witness, his own judge and his own jury. And if you carry on watching, Emily does not even acknowledge this excuse. She just brushes past it because I don't think she wants to give any credence to this nonsense. But it's just hilarious the way he becomes his own decision maker for his own fate and then just smugly says, therefore, I didn't do it.
Is it possible that you met Virginia Roberts, dined with her, danced with her in Tramp, had sex with her on another date?
No.
Do you remember meeting her at all?
No.
Do you know you didn't meet her, or do you just not remember meeting her?
No, I don't know if I've met her, but no, I have no recollection of me.
I don't know if it's just me, but when somebody says they have no recollection, rather than just no, it just is so cloaked in guilt. It just reeks of sort of culpability.
Because she was very specific. She described the dance that you had together in Tramp. She described meeting you. She was a 17-year-old girl meeting a senior member of the royal family.
Never happened.
She provided a photo of the two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
Yes.
You've seen the photo.
I've seen the photograph.
How do you explain that?
I can't. Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognise yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognise yourself.
Your friend suggested that the photo is fake.
I think it's, from the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph.
This quote reminds me of the exhibit Pimp My Ride memes that used to go around about 20 years ago. If you don't remember, Google it, but it's very geeky.
So it's very difficult to be able to prove it, but I don't remember that photograph ever being taken.
But it's possible that it was you with your arm around
that's
her
me, but whether that's my hand or whether that's the position, I have simply no recollection of a photograph ever being taken.
The world has now seen the photo that Virginia Roberts provided, taken by Epstein, we understand, in Ghislaine Maxwell's house.
Well, here's the problem. I've never seen Epstein with a camera in my life.
I think it was Virginia Roberts' camera. She said a little...
I mean, what human being has never handled a camera? Just because you've never seen the man handle a camera does not mean that he doesn't own a camera. And who in this modern world has never handled a camera? every single person in the first world, either on their phones or in the old days with the old Kodaks, every single human being has handled a camera.
Little Kodak one that she lent to Epstein, he took a photo, and your arm is round her waist.
I don't remember that photograph ever being taken. I don't remember going upstairs in the house, because that photograph is taken upstairs.
If you've never been upstairs, how do you know what the upstairs looks like? And how do you know that that photograph was taken upstairs?
Not entirely convinced that, I mean, that is what I would describe as me in that picture, but we can't be certain as to whether or not that's my hand on her whatever it is, left side.
You think that...
Because I have no recollection of that photograph ever being taken.
So why would somebody have put in another hand? You think it is you next to her in the photo?
Oh, it's definitely me. I mean, that's a picture of me. It's not a picture of... I don't believe it's a picture of me in London, because when I go out in London, I wear a suit and a tie.
Okay, so you don't sweat. You don't know where the bar is at Tramps. You've never seen Epstein handle a camera. You've never been upstairs in Ghislaine's house. And you would only ever be wearing a suit if that was in London. I just need to go back over the excuses.
That's what I would describe as, those are my travelling clothes if I'm going overseas. So I've got plenty of photographs of me dressed in those sorts of, sort of kit, but not there.
Just to clarify, so you think that photo has been faked?
Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
And you don't recollect having your hand round her waist in Ghislaine Maxwell's house on any occasion, even if it was a different date?
I'm terribly sorry, but if I, as a member of the royal family, and I have a photograph taken, and I take very, very few photographs, I am not one to, as it were, hug, and public displays of affection are not something that I do. So that's the best explanation I can give you. And I'm afraid to say that I don't believe that photograph was taken in the way that has been suggested.
Why would people not believe that you were there?
I'm sorry, why would?
I'm just trying to understand. There's a photo inside Ghislaine Maxwell's house. Ghislaine herself is in the background. Why would people not believe that you were there with her that night?
They might well wish to believe it, but the photograph is taken upstairs, and I don't think I ever went upstairs in Ghislaine's house.
That's a sneering look of contempt, that is. That is an absolute stinking look of contempt.
Are you sure of that?
Yeah, because the dining room and everything was on the ground floor. It was as you came in the hall. So I don't remember ever going up there. I'm at a loss to explain this particular photograph. If the original was ever produced, then perhaps we might be able to solve it, but I can't.
You can say categorically that you don't recall meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her, dancing with her at Tramp, or going on to have sex with her in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Do you recall any kind of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts then or any other time?
None whatsoever.
Because she said in a legal deposition, a legal court document in 2015, she had sex with you 3 times. She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you. The second was at Epstein's mansion in New York.
That is a date in April, I believe. Is that correct?
She said it was a month or so later.
Yeah. Well, I think that the date that we have for that.
I just love the use of the word we. Like he has a team of bullies just trying to jam his way out of this situation.
Shows that I was in Boston, or I was in New York the previous day, and I was at a dinner for the Outward Bound Trust in New York, and then I flew up to Boston the following day. And then on the day that she says that this occurred, they'd already left to go to the island before I got back from Boston. So I don't think that could have happened at all.
There was a witness there, Johanna Stolberg, who says that you did visit the house in that month.
I probably did. I don't think on one of the weird things, I was staying with the because of what I was doing. I was staying with the Consul General, which is further down the street on Fifth. So I wasn't staying there. I may have visited, but no, definitely no activity.
Because in a legal deposition, 2015, she said she had sex with you 3 times. Once in a London house when she was trafficked to you in Maxwell's house.
Yes.
Once in New York a month or so later at Epstein's mansion, and once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
No to all of it?
All of it. Absolutely no to all of it.
Why would she be saying those things?
We wonder exactly the same, but I have no idea.
Is the whole we thing an attempt to maybe distance himself from the allegations? If he says we, it removes him from the actual allegations against him?
Absolutely no idea.
She made these claims in a US deposition.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying you don't believe her? She's lying?
That's a very difficult thing to answer, because I'm not in a position to know what she's trying to achieve, but I can tell you categorically, I don't remember meeting her at all. I do not remember a photograph being taken, and I've said consistently and frequently that we never had any sort of sexual contact whatever.
She spoke about you outside the court in August of this year. Mm-hmm. She said, I quote, "He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it."
And the answer is nothing.
So if Virginia Roberts is watching this interview, what is your message to her?
I don't have a message for her.
I mean, whether or not she had sex with Andrew, she is definitely a victim of sex trafficking. And Andrew knows that Epstein is a convicted sex trafficker. So he could at least show some sympathy towards victims of these crimes. And Virginia is a victim of these crimes. So no message to her is kind of insensitive.
Because I have to have a thick skin. If somebody's going to make those sorts of allegations, then I've just got to have a thick skin and get on with it. But they never happened.
For the record, is there any way you could have had sex with that young woman or any young woman trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein in any of his residences?
No. And without putting too fine a point on it, if you're a man, it is a positive act to have sex with somebody. You have to take some sort of positive action. And so therefore, if you try to forget, it's very difficult to try and forget positive action.
Kind of sums Andrew up, really. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, but there is a little bit of misogyny and sexism in his point. I'm sure women can remember sexual activity, I'm sure there is a positive action for women too. It's not just a positive action for men. And I'm sure that that kind of activity can have lasting memories, good or bad. Obviously, I'm not just referring to assaults, I'm referring in general. I'm sure women have the same ability to remember these actions as men. So it's a really inappropriate comment, this.
And I do not remember anything. I can't. I've racked my brain and thinking, oh, well, when the allegations came out originally, I went, well, that's a bit strange. I don't remember this. And then I've been through it and through it and through it over and over and over again. And no, nothing.